Alright, so hello everybody. So this is Haven, and welcome to part number 4 of the Qavimator animating series. And we are going to just make a very quick, simple little animation today. I want you to remember that as you do this, this is the very beginning, the very basics of animating. I'll show you a few little things and how it works and what interpolation is, and things like that. But uh, get your feet wet into making these simple animations, and I'm going to be doing another tutorial on doing more detailed animating, getting more realistic effects and things like that. But first, I just want you to get familiar with keyframes, with frame rates, and with things like deleting and just the little things like that. So the first thing that we want to do is I opened up my previous file, which I'd set all of the bone rotations again to just 1 on the x-axis. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to change the number of frames that I can work with. And I'm going to go from 30 to say 80. Simply type 80 in there. While I'm down here, I'm also going to change my loop out to the last frame, which is 80. One more setting that I'm going to mess with down here is the frame rate. The frame rate is really important depending on what you want to create. Some animations, like a walk cycle, need to be timed so that when one foot steps in front of another, you move realistically across the ground in SL. As an example, if you were to move your feet at a normal rate in your animation, and you played this at a very low frames per second, in Second Life, your feet would be moving very, very slowly, but your avatar would be moving forward through the world. So it would almost look like you were gliding or ice skating through Second Life. On the other hand, if you play the animation too fast, what can happen is it'll look like you're running in place almost. So you really want to be able to time it. And one of the best judgments on what the frame rate would be is previewing it, seeing how it looks when you get it into Second Life, but also doing a little bit of research. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, an avatar works or walks through the SL world at a rate of 3 meters every 1.5 seconds, I believe. And so you have to kind of figure out, well, how fast does the animation need to go through the motions to match SL? So that's one way of doing it, or thinking about it. Another thing that you have is how many frames do you use? Of course, the more frames that you have, and the slower you can make the animation, the more you can fit into it. All of these play a factor, and only by practicing and making a few animations and testing them out are you going to get a really good hang at how quickly things should be played for what kind of an animation you're making. So I am going to do something though, which I tend to do, is I take my frame rate down pretty low when I'm creating the animation. This is not my final export frames per second rate. It is my viewing rate. That's so that when I'm watching my animation in my window here, it all moves in slow motion. So I get a chance to see the detail. I get a chance to see if one part of the body crosses through another part. And then I can stop things and tweak things better because I don't have to look at it 1,000 times to try and catch that right moment that it happens. So for a seamless animation, a lot like a pose, the first frame, which in our case is number 2, needs to be an identical frame to the last one. So whatever we pose here in our first frame, we are going to copy and paste it to the last frame. And so what I like to do is, if you want to, you can, I forgot what I was going to say for a second. We'll just go forward with this. So in our first frame, we're going to pose the avatar a little bit. And the pose that I'm going to be doing is really going to be a very simple one, because I want to show you how it works, a little area of how something works. So I'm just moving that arm behind, which means I have to move it back a little bit. So just bear with me while I do this. And okay, so that's one arm. And then we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to do this one as well. Only this one, I am now going to move towards the front. And let's see, twist it that way. It does take a little getting used to sometimes. Now, which way was I moving, this or that? But honestly, after just a little bit, you'll get the hang of it and you'll be twisting these in the right way so easily and quickly. And let's see, let's move this one just a little bit like that. And then we'll move the hand like that. Okay, so this is the first frame. Now, because my red marker was here, anything that I did is stored in these marks here. So all of the information for all of those movements is kind of programmed into where this red line is. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to hit copy up here in the top and come down here to my last frame and I'm going to hit paste. Alright, so now you see that really nothing's happening as I go from beginning to end. And that's because it's going from here, it's going from, let's say, 11-degree rotation on the y-axis here to 11-degree rotation on the y-axis. There's no difference, so you don't see any movement. Alright, so now let's go to the middle here and let's take the legs and we'll start animating them a little bit. Move the foot down like that. And then we will just take the head and we will move that a little bit as well. Maybe that was too far back of a tip. Okay. But now you see that each of those movements that I made are here on the keyframe, and only the ones that I did adjust have marks by them. These are the only ones that hold new information, and they hold that information specifically in this place, okay? So also, let me make sure that I do one exactly here. So if I were to take, let's say, let me just take the chest here. And I'm going to rotate it by, let's say, minus 20 degrees. Well, we'll just do plus 20. We'll go that way. Okay, so that mark is right here. From here, the first frame of 2 to 40, the second frame here, you have a 40-degree or a 20-degree change. It is angled 0, it is angled at 20 degrees, okay? So now you have 40 frames between the two, basically. Actually, you only have 38, but what's going to happen is Qavimator is going to rotate that bone in equal steps along all of these. So this bone will get changed 2 degrees, 2 degrees, 2 degrees, 2 degrees, all the way to the end until it gets to where it needs to go, okay? So as we go like this, you can see everything starts in this position and everything stops in this position. It gets to its end placement. It then goes from its that placement in the middle back to the beginning. So it's almost like you're playing it backwards because you have the exact same keyframes on this side. So you can add now, you can come here, let's say between these two, and you could add more movements to it. You can come here and anywhere you want and add movements to it. And as the time goes by, it tries to get, or it will get, to the next movement along the line in equal increments along the time frame. So one of the little tips that I like to give is that, let's say that you have the arm and you move the arm. So let's go here. I'm going to come down to maybe this one, and let's move the arm around a little bit. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it in the front. Okay, so now what's going to happen as I play this, do you see the arm doesn't know to go around the body, but I want it in this position on number 40. I want it in this position on this keyframe. Now the problem is, like I said, when it plays from this point to this point, it takes the straightest path. It doesn't know that it needs to go around the body. It's just going from point to point. So what you can do here is you find the keyframe where it makes the biggest mess up. So basically, honestly, for this one, it's going to be right in the middle. So the biggest mess up is right about here. Now on this frame, what you can do is you can adjust the arm. So I can adjust it at this frame. Let's go something like this. Okay, so now in this frame, its position is no longer left to interpretation. It is now your placement in this frame. And that in itself will change the interpolation. The interpolation no longer goes from the first position here on frame number 2 to frame number 80. It now stops and makes a new placement. So now you can see as you animate it, the arm comes out around the body and then back in front of it. And actually, because that's not set here, it's going to go back through the body on the other way. So now we can take this one here, this frame, and we can click copy. We can come to this frame and we can click paste. Now what you see is all of these additional marks that weren't here in this one. Well, they were here in this one. We just don't see them because all of these either represent no movement or they represent Qavimator's interpolation. So the square ones here means that in this frame, because it's a copy of it, in that frame that Qavimator made movement. And the movement that it made was to put the X rotation at 10. So I hope this makes sense. I'll explain more about this later as we go through the another tweaking session. But that's what the square ones mean. The round ones mean that there's no change between the two keyframes. So between this keyframe and the next one, which was this one, there was no change. So those are circles. Alright, and then this one here you can see means that there is going to be a change from this triangle pointing to the end. But there is no change between, there's only interpolation now between these two. Okay, so it interpolates from here to here. So now when we go ahead and play it, you can see that the hand comes around going forward and back. And I could also, you have to click on this button twice. Also, you can take these two joints, so I can shift, I can click on this one, and I can move it back here if I wanted to, and move it here if I wanted to. So that can change things as well. Alright, so you can grab them and you can slide them. You can take these and start deleting them too if you wanted to. So let's say that in this line here, I only wanted to delete this one. So you could go here and delete it, or put your numbers back, but because the blue line from being selected crosses with the red marker here, you can just come down here to this delete button and click on it. And it only deletes that one keyframe. But let's say you wanted to delete this whole line. You'd have to unselect a specific bone. So now I have no blue line. I clicked back here. So now I've got no blue here, which means not one of these is actually selected, but the marker is on the whole keyframe. And when you have it like that, you can click this key and it deletes that whole frame of them. Okay? So when you get this done, you can then play it back to see how it's working. You can change your frame rate. So I can go from 10 to 30, and you can see it's going a little bit faster now. And you can just keep adding your poses and tweaking them, like I did here, pulling it out of the middle of the body at the point where it crossed it the most. And that's it for your animation. The only other thing that you're really going to need here is this number. And so again, what this is Qavimator reads your looping in and looping out based on the frame number. But Second Life reads looping in and out based on percentages. So you're saying at the 2% in mark, you want to loop in. At the 100% mark, you want to loop out. So that's the only thing that these numbers are for right now. And you have to set your frame rate now as well. So, because whatever you have here, when you go to export this animation, this is the information that it takes with it. It remembers this frame rate. So now you want to go to File and Save As, and you could just T for test, name it, and then after you save it and name it, you come back to File and you click Export for Second Life and click OK on that little pop-up window that's just telling you it's been exported. And now we can go into Second Life. So give me one moment. Okay, so here we are in Second Life. This is actually the beta grid. You come up to build and you're going to upload the animation just like we did for the pose. When your window pops up, go ahead and double click or click on it and open it. And right away just click on the loop mark. When you click on the loop, that tells Second Life you're going to want to play this over and over again. Up here at the top, you can see 3.33 seconds. That's how long this animation is. So I always put that here so that when I have this in my inventory, I can see what the length of the animation is. There's really no other way to tell than to try and time it. But as you can see, 33 of a second, that's a little hard to actually get perfect with just watching your animation, especially when it's looped and plays over and over seamlessly. Another thing that you can put in this description is the priority. I will make this a 4. If it were going to be for an animation overrider, I would set the priority to 3. That leaves one priority level higher, which is 4, for your avatar to be able to interact seamlessly with a pose ball. If this were 3 and your animation overrider were 3, then you would have to turn your animation overrider off in order to play the new one. Otherwise, your avatar would probably jump between the two different animations. So, and then you can put here and then just put priority 4, whichever one that you chose for your animation. Next, you have the in percent and the out percent. And this is exactly what we saw on the Qavimator window. Looping in at 2% and looping out at the 100% mark. Here we have hand poses. You can come here and you can click the different poses that you want your hands to be in. Right now mine's not showing because I'm actually wearing mesh hands, and these do not pose at all with the animations. Facial expressions you can do as well. There is a wiki page where you can go and get a look at it. They have a picture of an avatar in all the different facial movements. I would rather do this with a script though, and I'll talk about that when I do an animated attachments video. Down here, ease in and ease out. Right now it's set to 0.3 of a second on both of them. What this means is as your animation, let's say your overrider is playing one animation, and then you want to start playing a second animation. You want to change it. Well, for 0.3 of a second at the end of the first animation, and for the first 0.3 of a second of the second animation, those will interlap. They will kind of do an interpolation, just like Qavimator did, between the two poses, so that you get something nice and flowing between the two animations. So you want to make sure that you set those. If at any point your animation stops like mine had, click on this camera and it will restart again. Now you can see that when my hand comes out from behind, it actually comes out of the body, but now it's going back into the body to go back behind me. So all I would have to do is actually just open up Qavimator. I can go to the point of the animation where that hand goes in, right there. I know that's at this frame. I can take it and I can pull it out. Maybe not that much. Pull the bottom out a little bit. And I would go ahead and I would resave this, and I would re-export it. And then when I came back into here, I could go to Build, Upload, Animation, and reopen it, loop it so that I can play it. And now you see the hand does not go back through the body. So it's nice when you're previewing it, you can see and you can go back easily and adjust things without that much of a hassle. And I like to do this part, the going back and forth, before I bother setting everything else. Because, you're just going to have to reset these when you try to re-import or re-preview the animations. So anyways, in the next video, I will probably be doing a little bit about a couple's pose or animation, and then we can talk about doing animated attachments, and after that I'm going to have a series of how to tweak and make animations more realistic in different programs. So I'll do Qavimator, probably Daz, and Avistar as well. Anyways, thank you for watching. Please do subscribe. Make sure that you share our link and give us a thumbs up, like. Suggestions and comments are always welcome. And until then, happy animating.